So let's get started. When we do a forgiveness, we have to think about the individual that we want to forgive. We have to name them. We have to name the situation that we were in. I always suggest journaling because journaling will actually help us to think through a lot more things that if we're standing and just, kind of sorting through the thoughts are not always clear. So you think of the individual. You might write about the circumstance and the details of what happened. And you're really trying to get to one important question at first. And the question is, what did I want from this person that this person was not able to give me? It's not that they didn't want to give it to me. It's just that they were not prepared, they were not able, they were not capable of giving it to me. And so what you do if you're journaling is you'd write down the response to that question. For me and my mother, if I am the 3-year-old child, obviously I wanted my mother to stay with me. I wanted her to continue our journey. I didn't want to see her disappear instead. And that leads me to the next question. Instead of what you wanted, what did you get? Or another way of saying it is, what did you get instead of what you wanted? So, of course, if you are journaling and you're writing the details of what happened, you will know what happened instead. And that's where most of us begin. We talk about the instead. I wanted this, but you gave me this instead. But we don't hone in on what I wanted, we hone in on what was given to us instead. But forgiveness requires that we pay attention to both the want and then what we got. The next part that we always attend to is how we feel, right? But sometimes we don't dive deep enough. Our bodies hold so many emotions, and you have to tap into all of them that's connected with this particular event that has happened. So I felt lonely, I felt unworthy, I felt rejected, I felt abandoned. And so I would put all of those things on the page. So I wanted my mother to continue the journey in life with me. I got instead separation. I got disconnection. I got abandonment. And how I felt about it: lost, rejected, unworthy, not good enough, detached, disconnected. Those are all of the emotions. I felt unhappy. I felt depressed. Those might be all of the things that I would put down on my sheet of paper if I were forgiving this for the first time. The next thing, though, is to think about why this happened. And you cannot just make up things. You have to step into the person's shoe. You have to consider all of the elements that might have contributed to their behavior. My mother left for better opportunities. She left to actually create a bridge for her children to have better opportunities, which we did. She left to make a better life, not only for herself, but her children, and possibly more of her family members. Now, in the later years, I've already told the story, but in the later years when I'm 15, there's always a moment in time that many of us need to remember. And for my mother, she needed to remember the beating that her father had given her, and she needed to forgive him so that she would not then do it to somebody else. In the aftermath of that beating, and later on as I talked to my grandmother and my grandfather about it, they would give me the information that I would need to understand why she acted the way that she did. Now, some people are total strangers and we don't have the reason for why they acted the way that they did. But we can know for certain that what we get is what we give. What's poured into our cup is what we pour out to others. So if you have no other place to go other than to say, what was poured into my cup is what that person also received, then that might be the place that you go. But if you know the intimate details of this person's life, then you have a better footing to stand on when you explain and have a compassionate place of understanding that you go to in explaining their behaviors. The compassionate understanding is the most essential item on the forgiveness process list. So after we have a sense of a compassionate understanding, then we begin the process of making some statements out loud. We cannot stay silent with our forgiveness. It must be spoken out loud like a prayer. Mom, I forgive you for leaving me instead of staying with me. I felt disconnected. I felt left behind, abandoned. I felt unworthy of your love. I felt confused. I felt lonely. And as you say those things out loud, you want to repeat them a couple of times. And as you repeat them a couple of times, you'll even find that the statements begin to change. And then you go to the next statement. But I understand. From a compassionate place, I understand. From deep within me, I understand why you behave this way. I understand that your father beat you when you were 8. I understand that he treated you just as he had been treated, almost like a slave. And I understand that in the ways that God talks about sin, he says the sin will visit upon the sons and the sons of those sons for up to 4 generations, unless we repent, unless we turn to God. So as you are moving through this process and you are releasing yourself from the hold of these moments that have harmed you, you need to go to that compassionate spiritual place where we understand from God's perspective why certain things are happening. Now we move on. The next part is about releasing and letting go. And sometimes this is the hardest place. It's where most of my clients will stop and say, I can't go on. Because letting go of the past means that now we have to forge forward into a new future. And sometimes we don't know what that future is because we have held on so long to the rage, to the grief, to the loss, the depression. It's hard to imagine letting go and moving in a new direction. We've held on to our anger at this person for so long. We've held on to their shirts and their arms and said, you shouldn't have done that to me for so long that now it's hard to actually release it. But forgiveness is not about them, it's about you. When you release them, you gain your freedom. And so you let go. You say it out loud. Mom, I let go of my anger, my rejection, my discontentment, my depression, my sense of unworthiness, my lack of peace, my unhappiness. I release it. I let you go for leaving me. You use the instead statement in this section. I let go. I let go of all the feelings that are connected with this thing that you did to me. That's what we're doing in that section. And then we move on. And this is a challenging moving on point. I love you and I accept you for who you are, for where you are, for who you will become. There are some people who've experienced these devastating events like rape, like the murder of a child. And it is here that many will stand and say, no, I cannot do this. I cannot say I love. But love is not in the same way that we think about this intimate love. It's a humanitarian love. God has created every single one of us, and He loves us, even the murderer who repents, even the one who has raped and repents. He loves them, and He freely offers His forgiveness. So now we're being asked to rise to a whole different level. I love you, and I accept you for who you are, for where you are, for the person that you're to become. And with that comes this release. And now we begin to open the door to the room and walk ourselves out of it. we say things like, I am ready to go on with my life. I am ready to be healthy and happy. I want to live fully, completely energized. I want my love and all that is good within me to come alive, right? I choose life rather than living in this dark room. I choose life rather than laying down on the floor and wishing to die. I choose instead to live completely, fully. The last part is an important part. I choose to live like Christ because Christ forgave every single one of us when he went to the cross. And because he did that, we were reconciled with our great Father in heaven. And this is the whole point of the forgiveness process. When we get up, when we let go, when we rise, it's about saying, I love God with all I got. I love myself the way he loves me. I love all humanity the way he loves them. I rise. I live as Christ. Thanks for walking with me through this process. If you like the video, please don't forget to like it here on YouTube or Facebook or whatever social media platform you're seeing it on. Subscribe to my channel and help me to spread the message to the world about this practical way of forgiving. And again, at drjoan.ca, you will find a masterclass called Become True Self. And for only $97, you can continue your forgiveness journey and rise to the heights that God intends for your life. Becoming is my gift to the world. Many blessings, and may prosperity and abundance enter your life.